This looks finished now, but getting here took planning, patience, and a few moments where it could have gone very wrong. We will be using this highly figured Buckeye burl that I have here in the shop. And of course, the star of the show is going to be Grogu and his little pal. All of this is going to be embedded in my epoxy of choice, Wisebond. I'm going to walk you through this build from start to finish. The decisions, the process, and the parts most people skip. If you enjoy seeing how things are actually made, not just the highlights, you're in the right place. Come on, let's get started. Okay, well, coming along pretty good. So now what I need to do, I have my overall shape. I've got all the bark inclusions cleaned off for Grogu. Now what I want to do is I'm going to put him, I think, right about in there. Something like that. So I'll use my CMT Forstner bits. I picked these up at Taylor Tools out of Missouri. I will leave a link down in the description below for that. But what I'll do is I'll match this up to the best Forstner bit. Flatten out that spot so I can get the action figure glued down on there. What do we got here? We've got, it's about 3/4. So let's just double check that. Yep. So I think what I'll do is I'll come straight down here. We'll flatten that out. That way he can sit down in there. And then I'm thinking that I go with some Wisebond bar and tabletop. and maybe pour up to about 1/4 of an inch. And we'll do this with a, I'm thinking water would be kind of cool. Have them sit. I've done some of these pieces before years ago. They went over really well. I haven't made any for a while. I've had some requests for them. So I think sitting right there would be great. This is Buckeye burl here. And I think what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to fill in these burl holes. And we're going to get this piece looking pretty slick. So let's get working on it. We are now ready to get going on the resin. So this was one of the fun and creative steps in this creation here. I have the sitting location for Grogu flattened out and sanded. And then now what we need to do is we need to make sure that he sticks down to the base of this. And there is a little bit of concave in there, so I want to make sure that all the air escapes out of there. I will be putting this whole mold into my pressure pot, which you'll see in just a little bit. But for this, we're going to be utilizing the quick set seal. This sets up in 1.5 to 2 hours. However, if you leave it set in your mixing cup, it will heat up faster and harden quicker. So my thought process here is to mix up just what I need to fill in this concave, adhere the bottom, put a little bit down in here, and then let it set until it's just about thick enough to where I can brush it on. It will fill all this in, hold him down on there, and then I can get to filling all of these individual holes. And for that, I'm going to utilize the bar and tabletop. Bar and tabletop needs to set up 12 to 24 hours. It's going to give me the time that I need to work on other projects so I can get this going. I'm going to actually do this in 2 pours for the bar and tabletop because I'm going to go with 2 different colorants. I keep going back and forth, and I think I've landed on 2 different ones. So I definitely want the holes that you see here. I want these to glow. So I am using the Radiation Glow, which is a green glow-in-the-dark pigment from Wisebon. And then I kind of want to do it water up to about maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. We'll see where we get. But I'm going to utilize their black light pigment. It's a Neon C. It has a couple different blues when you look at it under standard light and then black light. So I think it would be pretty cool. My other options that I toyed with was similar thought process of a glow-in-the-dark and a neon pigment. I think I'll probably end up doing another one of these. I actually am going to make up 5 or 6 of these, throw them up on my website, throw them out on social. But for the first one, we're going to do the blue and the green. And then the next one, I'm going to utilize these 2 kind of day glow pink. This Evening Sunset when I looked at it under the light, I held it up real tight to the light and then shut the lights off. It actually glows kind of like an orange, like a sunset colors. So I think these are going to be the other one. So let's get going on that. We're going to start off with the quick set, follow up with the bar and tabletop. I've got everything that I need here just in case. I got my brush to brush on the quick set seal. For the little pinholes on this Buckeye burl, I'm going to utilize a syringe. I got 3 different sizes of syringes here. And then I also have a micro applicator tip that I have pre-checked. It does fit down into all of these tiny little micro holes. So I'm going to do the glow-in-the-dark pigment down in these holes and then the water down below. So let's see how we go. I'll utilize the quick set seal to adhere this down to the bottom. I was going to use hot glue, but I don't want this to get all kind of wonky. This I can brush on and I think it will stick to that. Let's give it a try. Now what I want to do is just make sure this is positioned where I want it to go. Then I have his little buddy here, the frog. We're going to see if we can stick him down as well. Probably put him like right here. Get him facing him, kind of. What do you think? There we go. I think that'll be good. Now I got to try and mix up enough of the bar and tabletop, fill it before that gels so I can glue this down. It's gonna be a chore. Don't think I'm gonna need too much. I'm gonna mix up an ounce. I think that's probably gonna be enough. I'll probably go a half an ounce of each A and B. Well, looks like we're gonna go to a full 2 ounces because I overpoured. All right. Doing good so far. So this, I poured a little out in here, but this is what I was talking about. This is the consistency that I wanted. This is that gel state that I think that's going to be enough to hold this down. It's already really tacky in there in a good way. Oddly enough, it's still, it's starting to gel up more in the cup. So I poured it both ways just to be safe. So now what we're going to do is we are done with this. Well, actually, I could use this bar and tabletop still. You know what? I was going to mix up some others, but we didn't need all of this. Syringe came in very handy. So now what we're going to do is I will put this face on. Trying not to spill any of what I've put in with the syringe. And then we will screw this tight. And that will seal everything up. And then I will mix this up and see kind of where we land on the neon water portion. Happy with that. Now let's get this mixed up. Hopefully that'll be enough to kind of fill where I want to go. If not, I can mix up some more. Not going to be that big of a deal. There we go. That should be more than enough. Notice I am using the same wide stick for all different epoxies and different colorants because you can wipe them down and reuse them. If you head on over to Wisebond, wisebond.com, I would appreciate if you use my affiliate link. Grab you some of these. You will not be disappointed. So I could have gone with the turquoise color like what I do my lagoon boards with. I want it to be a little bit lighter. Let me get some white. All right, we're going to stick to the day glow, or neon, I should say, not day glow. This is neon cloud. Now this is a white, so it should lighten this blue up. That's probably way too much. All right, we're going to go with that. And we're going to make it a little lighter. I was going to go with the white. All right, my camera died. But all you missed out on was the actual coloring and the pour. So we're going to put it into the pressure pot now. Let me show you what this looks like. I'll try not to get too crazy here. So here's where we're sitting. And I will put that in the pressure pot. This is my Cal Air pressure pot. So normally, anytime that I pour any of the epoxy resins, the bar and tabletop or even the deep pour, I will then hit it either with the heat gun or the torch. However, this is going in this pressure pot, and it's going to sit in here for 12 to 24 hours. So I'll leave that set right in there, and that will let all the air bubbles come to the surface and pop. Let me show you what that looks like down in there. And I have leveled this out already. So that will be good to go. We're going to run this at about 60 pounds. So I'm going to tighten that equally. You want to make sure that these are secure, because even at 60 pounds, that's a lot. And you just need to hand tighten it. You don't need to use a wrench on these. It does have a safety valve on these. It's what these were intended for. All right, I think we're good. And then I like to bleed it in slowly, not all at one time, and get up to where we need to go. Let's take it out. All right. Next step we've got, now that this is out of the pressure pot, this has been cured for about a day or so. I've gone ahead and scratched up with some 120 grit sandpaper where the resin is, so it'll give it a little bit more bonding surface. We're going to pour some deep pour over this. That will still bond to all of the wood. And it's going to go in the pressure pot, so that will help release any air that is on there. So I'm not really worried about any air bubbles. I was going to go with the bar and tabletop. However, it is pretty deep. Wisebond does recommend using the deep pour. If you didn't have a pressure pot, then it would, do the slow release of the bubbles, and it would dry bubble free. But we're going to go with deep pour anyways, and still put it into my Cal Air pressure pot. And then I have a couple molds, my coasters. I'm going to pour a little over, and then we could fill that in and fill in with some of the dyes, and I'll show you what that looks like after I take it out of the pot. So let's get this mixed up. It's going to call for 30 ounces of the deep pour. So we're going to do 20 ounces of part A and 10 ounces of part B, because it is a 2-to-1 mixture. We're going to use the Y stick. That'll let me get down in there. It's going to be pretty close to the top, so I'll have to just be careful so that I don't spill. Don't ask me how I know. Check out one of my shorts. All right, so let's get this all mixed up, and we will come back. You want to try and pour slow so that you don't induce any air bubbles. Even though I'm putting it in a pressure pot, you might not be. And the slower you pour and take your time, the less air bubbles you're going to induce into it. Let me show you. It's kind of cool how this sits. You can see the two layers. This is the deep pour A, and this is the deep pour part B. And now we mix.
6-minute timer started.
Notice how clear this has become. So let me show you. Now look at how clear it is. Everything is all layered together. When you mix it by hand, you don't get as many air bubbles, if any, if you do it nice and slow, as opposed to a paddle mixer with a screw gun. So we are going to pour it down in. So you can see there I scratched up a little bit on the resin that is already in there. So then we are going to pour it down in. All right, and here we go. So then we are going to take that and put that down into our pressure pot, and that will get all of the air bubbles out that I just created by pouring that in there that deep, that fast. But I could also pop it with my heat gun, or my torch, I should say. So you can see my other molds down in here. So I'm just gonna put that right there. That looks good. And again, we'll put this under pressure. This tank will hold 80 pounds pressure, PSI. The maximum operating pressure that they like to go with is 60 pounds. And honestly, that's all you need for this resin work. All right, we are all cinched down. We'll get the air and we'll get it going. And that is it. We are at 55 pounds. We're good. And yeah, pour me another. Let's see what we've got. Well, that could be the reason. I remember now. I glued down the bottom. There we go. All right. All right, we got it out of the mold. I had forgotten that I had taken some of the quick set seal and had it gel up a little bit so I could use it as an adhesive to hold to the bottom of the mold. Generally with these type of molds, you don't need to spray them because the resin doesn't stick to it. It just comes right off. But note to self, I'll have to remember that I glued it down. Anyway, happy with this cube. So now there are no air bubbles in there. I try and get a close-up view there for you. So we'll get this mounted up on the lathe. I think I just want to turn it into a kind of a dome, really. I don't know. Do I leave it a cube? Do I turn it into a dome? We'll see. All right, let's get this mounted up on the lathe and we'll turn it, I think. I think that's what we're going to do. All right, let's go. That's the finished piece. I'll throw some close-up shots at the end of the video here. Every build teaches you something if you slow down and pay attention. This one was no different. If you enjoyed watching this come together, consider subscribing. I share the entire process, not just the perfect moments. Thanks for spending the time with me. I really appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one. It even glows under black light.